The Ragin Cajuns will be looking for a new athletic director for the first time in nearly a decade. Let's discuss it here on Ragin Rundown. What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into another episode of Ragin Rundown. All Cajuns, all the time. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick, but you can always call me Fitz. And in today's episode, we will be talking about quite literally the biggest story of the UL athletic department since we've started the show, and it is the departure of athletics director Dr. Bryan Maggard. To be candid, I was at home. I was in the middle of a workout, actually, and I checked my phone on social medias and I saw that I believe it was College AD had tweeted out that Louisiana's AD would be leaving for Missouri. So I made a few phone calls and was able to confirm the news and was able to eventually break it. Ross Dellinger shortly thereafter came out with some information as well. So from there, it became an official story when the Ragin Cajuns officially announced it. And then shortly thereafter, Missouri would also announce that Dr. Maggard would be leaving the program after 9 years of running the athletic department. He heads back to Missouri, a place that he had been at for 22 years, essentially the bulk of his professional career in athletics. And he will be serving as the deputy AD and also as the COO of that athletic department. So first of all, congratulations to him in that. But there are a lot of things that we have to discuss in this. So, I won't waste any time with all of that. Like I said, the announcement came out that he would be leaving. He's been a part of the program since 2017 and took the athletic department to a lot of different positions that were transformative. Obviously, with the rev share and the NIL era coming in, that has changed a lot of things. But the renovation of Our Lady of Lourdes Stadium, the raising of funds up to, I believe, $30 million to be able to continue to retain players and continue to grow the athletic facilities around UL athletics. That's been a huge part of what he's done. From what we have heard from the press release that the athletic department sent out, Trey Frazier will be named as the interim and a national search will begin. I'll have some thoughts on that a little bit later in the show. Why Missouri is the big question that I know a lot of people would be saying. And to me, it makes the most sense. He has a PhD from there. He originally graduated from Kansas State, where he had 2 degrees originally, and that's about 4 hours away from Missouri. His daughter just had a child, so he has a granddaughter now. He's a grandfather. So to be able to have the opportunity to be around family and to be able to be in a great position, because if I'm not mistaken, I think the COO and also the person that he's assuming the role for is retiring from that position. So it was kind of like the perfect storm. Everything came all together for him to be able to move forward and have that opportunity. In his statement he put out, as I'm reading through it, one of the things that he said was that it would take something extremely special for him to have left Louisiana, because, like I said, they had been here for 9 years. And what better thing for it to be something special than to be closer to your family and go back to the place that you originally worked at for 22 years to potentially put yourself in a much better position in your professional career. Now, obviously, like, this also comes after he was named a member of the college football playoff committee back in March. And so it kind of feels like the worst timing for UL, because it's like he would have been on that committee, and every time his name would have been mentioned, the Ragin Cajuns logo, the brand of Louisiana would have been a part of that. And now it's going to be back to the SEC as a team like Missouri. So that does feel sour, I'm sure, for you that may be watching this episode. But from a perspective of just him as a human being, I totally understand why he would have done it. And I honestly probably would have done similar things in this position. So it doesn't sound like at all that he was leaving this place because he was unhappy. He was very much happy in his position here. And there were things that he was working towards. Recently the baseball program has been raising funds to try to get themselves a renovated clubhouse and all of these different other renovations that have been down the line. So it wasn't that the position that he was in was very bad, but it kind of just seems like the perfect storm for him, and the worst storm and worst timing for Louisiana as they're getting ready for football season in just under a month, I believe. So in his time at UL, Louisiana had 8 consecutive bowl appearances, 5 Sun Belt championship game appearances, 2 Sun Belt titles, and then 6 CFP rankings in that time. So it's almost that you could say that some of Louisiana in athletics was elevated in different instances. You think about the hire of Billy Napier, which was one of the slam dunk hires that he was able to get. You think about him hiring Jerry Glasgow, and this also came after the firing of Mark Hudspeth, and also the softball program as well, with everything that happened with that as well. So to get those 2 hires was really big. I know recently the last 2 hires that he has brought in, Quantis White being an outside hire, and then Allison Habits, even though she is a Cajun herself, being someone that was hired from the outside and was not already in the department. Quantis White was in his first season. It wasn't at its best, but he has time. The first 2 seasons under Coach Habit have not been their best, but I'm sure that they are going to continue to give her backing to be able to get some time behind that. Whether that will come to fruition and change, it is to be seen. But he was able to see through a lot of transition while being the athletic director of the Ragin Cajuns. The athletic department had 21 Sun Belt championships, 23 NCAA appearances, and was able to, be in position where every single year you could almost see that UL was going to be competitive. Softball, baseball, football, the season that basketball had a couple of years back. So you could see at that time that things were continuing to elevate slowly. Now, like I said earlier, the rev share, the NIL has changed a lot of things, and the landscape has really changed drastically over time. And so whoever comes in to be the next athletic director, that's going to be a main priority for them that they're going to have to focus on, is how do they work through this era to continue to not necessarily be able to raise millions and millions of dollars to try to go and get a 40 and $50 million roster, but how do you get enough money to maintain and say, hey, we can get a guy for 1 more year or 2 more years because of the funds that we may have. We talked about the facilities renovations that they've been a part of, the $65 million stadium renovation of Our Lady of Lourdes, the $30 million raised, the $15 million naming rights deal that they had. UL Athletics doesn't look necessarily like it did 8 years ago. So like I said, kudos to Dr. Maggard as he will now move forward in his career. But now Louisiana is tasked with trying to make what is going to be a very, very important hire, the most important hire in quite some time. And it's something that they have not been in a position in almost 10 years. You had a different president at the time. You were transitioning at a different era of college athletics. And so it'll be interesting to see. So I'm going to take a quick time out. And when we come back, we'll talk about what is going to be important that Louisiana will have to look forward to or look for in their next athletic director. We'll discuss it when we come back here on Ragin Rundown. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Ragin Rundown. We're going to get back into the action in just a second. But before we do, if you're watching this episode on YouTube, please do me a favor. Please like it, share it, and leave a comment down below. But most importantly, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're listening, please follow the podcast feed, rate the show, and leave us a review, because that's going to help us get in front of more Ragin Cajun fans just like yourself. So we talked about before the break everything that Dr. Maggard did before his departure, and now he is moving forward to Missouri. So now what are we looking at in the future? The interim, as I said before, the interim AD will be Trey Frazier, who has already been wearing multiple hats. So he just gained another hat. He's been the deputy athletic director. He has been the executive director of the Ragin Cajuns Athletic Fund, or the RCAF for short. And I think having him in that position obviously, brings about a lot of stability, but he is a person that comes with experience even before he got into the position that he is assuming now as interim. So if you look back, he's been a part of programs like Missouri, UAB, Virginia Tech, Wisconsin, Ohio, Florida, and Conference USA. And what he primarily was focused a lot on was fundraising. During his 5-year stint at UAB, he served as Senior Director of Development, where he helped complete capital projects for the Football Operations Center. It was $22.5 million. The basketball practice facility, $7.5 million. The soccer stadium at 1.5, the track and field facilities at $2 million. And he additionally helped raise a school record $9.5 million in his first season. In 2021, Frazier and his team raised a school record $2.7 million for the annual fund. So that's just a little bit about what he was able to do. He also did some things and projects at Virginia Tech. He had multiple roles inside the Virginia Tech Athletic Fund. He was back there during 2017. So again, this was a different era when a lot of that happened, but the program was instantly successful as the annual giving increased by 73% from 9.8 million to 17 million, which was at the time an all-time record. So it just goes to show that the person that you're adding in this has a landscape of what it's going to take from a financial standpoint, which we know that budget issues and things is what UL has been faced a lot with, especially over the past year and some change. So it's going to be important that him being in this position, whether he gets the position or full time, or if this is just him being a bridge person to whoever is next, I think that that's going to be truly important that they focused on that. So in the press release, it said that a national search will be conducted, which is what they always say whenever positions are in transition, whether it's a hiring, firing, all of those things like that. The needs that they're going to be needing to focus on, like I said, you're going to need someone that has fundraising experience. They're going to have to understand NIL, revenue sharing, commitment to football, to baseball, to softball, to your big programs that you're focused on, to conference realignment knowledge and all of those things like that. So those are going to be some of the biggest challenges that whoever this next AD is going to inherit. So you're going to have to be able to maintain football success, because football is the front door to not just your athletic department, but in most cases your university. Because when football is able to be successful, people want to go to winning schools. That means your enrollment goes up. So now you're having more students on campus. It all collectively works hand in hand together. Budget challenges, like we said, UL has been faced with so many challenges that we've talked about on this show before, that I've talked about on my day job at KETC. They're going to have to figure out, how can we do more with less? That is what this athletic director is going to be faced with. The revenue sharing, like I said, how do you be able to figure out, how do we divvy up enough money to where student athletes can get their piece of the pie, but to where it's not enough of a big enough slice to where you're lacking in other areas, so to speak. And then just keeping facilities competitive, so to speak, as well. Like I mentioned, the timing of this is probably one of the most interesting, because you're right before football season. The recruiting cycle of football season has kind of simmered down. Like I said in a past episode, like I've heard from conversations that I had, football may be done with their 2027 class that they have done. Baseball and softball. Baseball for sure has filled out their roster. Softball is probably about as close as they're going to get to filling out their roster. Basketball is complete with both of those teams. So from an athletic standpoint, you're in a midway point where, as you're getting closer to the fall, it's going to be important to have somebody in position. So we'll have to see how quickly Louisiana is actually going to move. In my opinion, I've presented a lot of information in this episode, but in my opinion, I feel like having Trey Frazier assume the role full-time as athletic director would not be something that's completely out of question, or something that wouldn't make sense. I've read to you how he's been, knowledgeable around what it takes to fundraise. He's been around in these past couple of years trying to navigate the NIL rev share era. he has a young mind, and he has experience in being around Dr. Maggard and seeing the vision that he was carrying out. And now he could potentially be somebody that carries out that same vision as he assumes a potential new role in his career. But obviously, um, President Ramesh Kalaru and I'm sure in whatever committee that he's going to formulate together will sit down. They'll evaluate what they need to do. And then they will be trying to hopefully make a decision before the Cajuns open up their season on September 5th. The football program, that is, opens up their season on September 5th against Lamar. So Dr. Bryan Maggard is moving forward in his career and is heading back to Missouri to take over as Deputy AD and COO of that program. Trey Frazier will serve as the Ragin Cajuns interim AD for the time being. So that's going to wrap up this episode of Ragin Rundown. If you've made it to this point in the episode, thank you so much. If you're watching on YouTube, please do me a favor, like the video, share it, leave a comment down below. Let me know, what do you feel like Bryan Maggard's legacy was at UL? Let's discuss it all down in the comments. If you're listening, please follow the podcast feed, rate the show, and leave us a review, because that's going to help us get in front of more Ragin Cajun fans just like yourself. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick. We'll see you guys next time.